Good afternoon. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today. It's actually the first time I'm back on stage and to an in-person event in a few years, so it's really, really exciting. All right, today I'm going to talk to you about two significant problems of our time. The first one being the impact that civilization is having on our planet. The European Union published a number of reports around the impact that we're having on the environment. And the global emission of CO2 from energy conversion in 2021 have topped to 38 billion tons. 25% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the European Union are actually generated by the transportation industry, which is highly dependent on fossil fuel, with 70% of road transportation actually contributed to it. So if we look at the European Union alone, the impact is quite significant. But in general, we're not trending in the right direction. The greenhouse gas emissions have been growing of 30% in the last 30 years. The second problem I'd like to talk to you about today is road safety. This is road accidents are today the 8th leading cause of death worldwide. And again, here, we're not trending in the right direction. The World Health Organization is actually estimating that by 2030, this will become the 5th leading cause of death worldwide. If we look at the European Union, the rate of road accidents with injuries is of 2,000 accidents per million inhabitants, with unfortunately 2% of the accidents with fatalities. So again, the human cost we're paying is huge. But why am I introducing these problems to you today? So let me take a step back. I've been very passionate about computers since when I was age 6, when my dad got me a Commodore 16. I still remember those days when I was writing video games in BASIC because I didn't have floppy or tapes yet. It was a lot of fun. But then it was only a few years later during my engineering studies when I really got excited about how technology can help us address problems like the one I mentioned, so environmental impact and road safety. And a PhD later, a startup later, an acquisition later, here I am years later with Verizon Connect, part of the Verizon Connect team, addressing these problems with our customer, for our customers, and for society with technology. So Verizon Connect, for those of you that don't know it, is a leading company in the fleet management and mobile workforce management space. And what we do is we connect vehicles, we connect assets, we connect people, and we're talking about more than 2,500,000 vehicles and connected assets as of today across 3 continents. And the beauty of all of this is that these assets, these vehicles would generate something like 400 million of messages every day. And they would send us positions, would send us accelerations, and many informations we can access from these vehicles for our customers. And we're talking about something in the tens of gigabytes of data we ingest every day. But the largest amount of data we ingest is actually coming from our dashboard cameras that we install on vehicles, dash cams. And these cameras would give us access every day to 650,000 videos related to safety events. And we're going to talk about these in a second a bit more. But this is something like 4 terabyte worth of data, or as our data scientists like to measure this, is like equates to watching 300 times the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But we collect this data, we ingest this data, we process, we enrich it with technologies such as artificial intelligence, and we make them available to our customers. We provide them a unified view on their operations, and we support them. We support fleet managers, we support drivers, field technicians in understanding the world right around them, the challenges they're facing, and how they can address and solve those challenges. And but why am I? How does this link back to the problems I just introduced, right? So our platform provides a unique perspective on these problems through the data that we acquire, right? That becomes our view on the world. And so, for instance, in the case of environmental impact, we can see that some of our fleets would tend to spend a significant time in idling, meaning vehicles stationary with the engine on. And technology can help address excessive idling, and we know that our customers that are using our platform to address excessive idling can on average reduce that by 10%. It seems like a small number, right? But if you have a fleet of 10 vehicles and you focus on reducing excessive idling over 10%, that means you're saving 1,200 kilograms of CO2 emissions per year. And if you then project this across our customer base, we're talking about 100,000 tons of CO2 reductions, right? This starts to become a significant number. It's great, this number, but we can do much better. We are in the middle of a transition to electric vehicles, and the European Union estimates a reduction of CO2 emissions by 2050 of 40%. In an effort to accelerate towards that direction, there's been this year some landmark legislation that has been signed off by the European Union to phase out the sales of CO2 emitting cars and vans. And so the electric vehicle technology can help us address inefficiencies, can help us reduce the CO2 emissions. And there's a very good news. We can see by looking at our customers that already with the technology available today, we can support most of our customers. Now, on the other hand, the adoption is very low. We're seeing only 0.1% of our customer or the vehicles reporting to our platform in the US with electric vehicles, and something around 1% in Europe. The good news is that the opportunity is massive. We're talking about almost 50% of the vehicles reporting to our platform today that are suitable to a transition, for transition to electric vehicles. If we look at the impact that this could have, we're talking about 2 million tons of CO2 that this, could be saved every year. And if it's hard to visualize this in terms of tons, you can think of it as 36 million trees that can absorb CO2 for us instead of emitting it, and that can produce oxygen for us. So this is quite interesting, I think. But let's go back to road safety, right? Road safety, as said, is definitely has definitely a massive impact these days, right? And is not trending, as said, in the right direction unless we take action. Every day, or it has happened many times to us, right? Situations where we're driving, someone all of a sudden takes over or brakes ahead of us, right? And then in turn, we have to brake. This is what we call close call. Now, statistics tell us, by looking at the data we have, that 1 every 200 close calls results in an accident. And 1 in 5 of these accidents, unfortunately, results in injuries. And 1 every 375 accidents results in fatalities. Of course, the more you're driving, the more you're on the road, the more you're at risk. So we have customers, for instance, that are driving from 200 kilometers per day to 500 kilometers per day. And think about long-haul services, long-haul fleets, right? And so if you average out across our customer base, what we see is that every day, every 10 vehicles, there's 1 close call. If we do the maths and we project these on, for instance, our North America fleet, we can estimate that every year there's more than 400 fatalities just in North America with our fleets, the customers we support, right? Which is just a subset of the vehicles you have driving around every day. So this is a terrible number, right? And technology can help us address this because we see that customers that are using our platform to help their drivers, to support the drivers, to coach their drivers, to create awareness around the risk, can reduce on average by 30% the number of close calls, which in turn means reducing the number of accidents. And then we have, we have collected and reviewed thousands and thousands of close calls of car accidents thanks to our AI dashcam that we can install in the vehicles, and at that point gain visibility on what's happening around the vehicle. And at this point, we can say that we can see that phone destruction, for instance, can increase by 140% the probability of a crash, right? Or that the crash probability can increase 150% in case of running stops, right? And think about situations where you have multiple reasons, multiple risk factors happening at the same time, right? So it's really on us to create awareness around risk and to explain, explain drivers, explain fleet managers what a simple look at your phone while driving can have a dramatic impact on your life and the lives of the people around you. And this is possible. This brings me back to my original point, right? That technology, and specifically artificial intelligence, can have a real and measurable impact on addressing these problems, right? Specifically, the two that I mentioned today, for instance. So, in the case of electric vehicles, we, as said, collect this vast amount of data, right, from our devices installed on the vehicles, or directly from the new generation of connected vehicles. And by leveraging technologies such as artificial intelligence, what we can do is we can learn from the aggregate data sets that we collect from our customers, and we can then deliver back the learning that we get from these as something in the context of each single customer, right? Like, this is what we do, for instance, in the case of electric vehicle suitability model, right? Where we learn by looking at our customers' operation and by looking at electric vehicles and their characteristics, what vehicles of our customers are suitable for transition to electric vehicles. And at that point, we explain that to our customers, and we show to them also the benefits that this transition would have for them. But if the technology that we have, that we can apply to telematics data is exciting, is nothing compared to what we can do with video. So the recent advances on deep learning neural networks, or deep neural networks, really let us efficiently understand in a video sequence what road objects we have. And we can then estimate the position in time and space of these objects and the interactions between these objects. Once we've decoded a video sequence, we have access to a gold mine of information. And at that point, we can look for the risky events that I just mentioned, right? And at that point, we can surface that. This is a screenshot of our application, and you can see how we're trying to explain our customers what is the relevant event that you can see in the video, right? And specifically, this is a situation where Francesco, our chief scientist, was driving somewhere in Italy, in Tuscany, and he was experiencing a number of alerts from our dash cam telling him that he was tailgating, right? He was too close to the vehicles ahead of him. And he was quite annoyed by that, and he was thinking, perhaps we should retune these algorithms, and because it's a bit too sensitive. But then all of a sudden, there was a queue, and he had to brake, and he was able to do it, but there was another car behind him there was a combination of distraction, for sure, and a combination of tailgating, right? And so what happens was an accident. Classic situation. There's a queue, you're distracted, boom. And so this is why we use this in a screenshot in our deck, right? Because it's a good example. Even someone that builds the technology was unsure if there was a risk or not, right? And this proved to be right. There was a risk. So anyway, let's go back to AI, right? So recently we've all heard about all these advances on some models, like large language models. That has been around for some time. We've all used these models in translation tools, for instance, or in chatbots. And we've heard again talking about artificial general intelligence, AI apocalypses, AI takeovers. I say it again because that's exactly what we heard 10 years ago when deep learning was making mainstream and we started to use it. But then, over the years, we started to learn more about how deep learning works and when it makes sense to use it, how we can avoid problems like bias in the data set, or how we can ensure security or privacy around these models. And today we're all more comfortable in using these tools, these models, or this technology to unlock our phones, or to see who's at the door, right? Or in case of the ring bell, or in our case, in the road safety context, to save lives, right? So I think the same will happen with technologies like large language models or generative AI. It's just a matter of time and spending, more research, right? More research efforts in understanding how this works and how to make them do exactly what we want them to do. As Professor Russell from UC Berkeley recently shared in a talk, the goal of technological innovation is to lift the living standards of everyone on Earth, and to respectable levels. And what I would add personally is also to protect the planet and to preserve it for future generations. If ethically this is not enough, we are talking about a massive economic incentive as well, right? We're talking about increasing tenfold the global GDP to bring that level, the living standards to a respectable level that I just mentioned. Something in the order of $13.5 quadrillion of net present value. So similarly to with other inventions that happen in history, I don't think we can stop or slow down technological innovation. We should actually invest in education. We should invest in adoption to safely and collectively benefit from these new living standards that technology can help us achieve, right? And so, if I go back to what we've done over the years, specifically over the last 8 years with AI, with solving all the problems related to the adoption of AI, we've used really deep learning to extract information from the data sets available to our customers and provide this information back to them as value, right? To help them drive their businesses in our context. And I believe that these new technologies that we are now making mainstream will be able to let us really build some radically different user experiences that can help us then distill out of this vast amount of information that now we have access to, what is really relevant for our customers, what can really make the difference for them, not only to run a more successful business, not only to be more effective, more efficient, but also to have a more significant impact on problems like preserving the environment or road safety. And so we like to think at Verizon Connect that we're building personal business analysts in support of our customers. And this is something that for Verizon Connect and for our customers mean saving more than 100 lives every year, or saving potentially 2 million tons of CO2 emissions every year. But with the impact growing every year, right, as we continue to grow as a company. But maybe not something in the order of the quadrillions of dollars, right, like we've talked about. But we like to believe that this is our contribution in that direction. Thank you very much.